So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Sunak getting absolutely pieced up by the public and Nick Ferrari. And imagine getting pieced up. Imagine being a Conservative and getting pieced up by Nick Ferrari on LBC. And why Sunak went on this call-in show, given the state of this country, is one of the stupidest things I've seen from a politician in a while. And believe me, they do a lot of stupid stuff. So let's have a listen to these clips.
Morning, Rishi.
Hi,
Joe. It's Joe Foster here, and I'm a small business owner. I've got two small businesses here in the beautiful Richmond, North Yorkshire. I don't suppose you've heard the news, but last week was a very sad one here. 4 of our very well-established small independent businesses announced that they're shutting their doors because keeping going is just no longer financially viable.
I wish you kind of mentioned what these 4 businesses are and what they did. I guess she's got a limited time slot, but even still.
And talking to other fellow small businesses, not just here, I mean, to be fair, around the country, many more are on the brink. And asked why, what people are saying, and they're saying it all over social media and in person, they're quoting your Tory policies as the reason why. Everything from increased taxes, soaring cost, impact of Brexit, difficulty finding staff, all combined with the fact that it was your government that crashed the economy and left people without any spare disposable income to spend.
That's a fatality. You know, she just hit him on multiple points there. The crashing of the economy, Brexit, lack of staff, taking away people's disposable incomes. These are the things that can kill, rising interest rates as well. These are the things that can kill off businesses. If people don't have disposable income, they cut back on luxuries and even necessities. And so what that means is less money goes into the economy, which means the economy kind of tanks. And these small businesses that generally have smaller profit margins, or possibly a smaller profit margins, depending on the business, they can't afford that, and so they go under. So this is the situation that the Tories created. You know, the so-called party of strivers, as George Osborne would say, has destroyed all of these people who are striving to, build their own success, effectively entrepreneurs, which the Tories pretend to be the party of, when they're the party of big business and the rich.
Spend. So, I mean, I know obviously we're here in a rural economy. It's a nightmare for anybody, but in rural economies and communities like ours, where small businesses are our lifeblood, I mean, it's really serious. So, my question to you is, what are you going to do about the fact that your Tory policies are causing small businesses to shut up shop?
Thanks, Joe. Always
your Tory. She put it all on him, and she's right to do so. He was Chancellor for a while, and he's been Prime Minister for a while. What has he done? Nothing. His party have done nothing to solve these problems.
It's always lovely to hear from you. No, look, Joe and I don't, as you can probably tell, share the same politics. We've had healthy debates on Brexit in the past, where we have a strongly.
I don't think there's much point asking if she votes Conservative.
No. She was very upset that I supported Brexit, but I think that's the right thing to do, and I don't think that's the reason that some businesses.
So literally, the staff shortages and the increased costs of getting in materials from Europe. You don't think that's causing small businesses problems? Okay then, big man. Okay then.
Are struggling at the moment. I think it has a lot to do with energy bills, actually.
It's not just to do with energy bills, though. It's a combination of factors, and also the fact that the energy support you guys have given to businesses has been lacking. Has been severely lacking. So for you to say, oh, it's down to the energy costs, what have you done for that? Did you do a proper windfall tax? No. Did you redistribute money effectively? No. So, to argue it's the energy bills, and for you to do very little about it is just yikes. So he got pieced up by this lady. He's gonna get, he's got no answers for this bloke on TV, honestly.
I'm in my early 30s with a wife and 4 children to support.
So this one's a bit long, but once the guy gets to the point, it's quite interesting. There's a lot of kind of setup he does.
Been encouraged to invest in bricks and mortar and become homeowners. But when my current 2-year fixed rate expires at the end of this year, my new fixed rate will go up from £1,500 a month to £2,800 a month. As someone who works 7 days a week and has paid into the tax system since I left school without claiming a penny back, why do I feel like I'm being unfair?
I mean, to be fair, without claiming a penny back, I mean, that's a stupid thing to say anyways, because at the end of the day, you went to school, that costs the taxpayers money. You were born, that cost the taxpayers money. So, to make the argument, I ain't taking a penny out of the system is simply not true. But, pop off.
Fairly punished. And what can you do to help me?
Jack, thanks for calling. And it's a great question to start with, right? Because
so this one's a layup because it should be an easy question to answer because so many people are going through the same thing within the UK with regard to mortgages. So he should really have the answers here. But the answers he gives are stupid. And even the guy and Nick Ferrari kind of called him out on this.
Situation is being faced by many across the country, and I'm incredibly sympathetic about it. I know you'll be anxious about what's going to happen to your mortgage when it comes up for repricing, and we're taking practical action that will help you and many others. So let me just tell you what you can do in the short term, and then I'll take a step back and tell you more broadly how we're going to help. Look, in the short term, for you or anyone else who's worried about this, you should talk to your bank. And what we've agreed is a mortgage charter with the lending industry. So you can talk to your bank and you can do a couple of things with them. You could extend the term of your mortgage by, say, 5 or 10 years, or you could switch to an interest-only mortgage. Now, it sounds like from your payments that you've got...
So, if you extend the term of your mortgage, you pay over a longer term, and that means I think generally you pay more money over that term as well. So that's obviously not ideal, especially given the guy's in his early 30s, as he'll mention. You can switch to interest only, so you'll be paying just the interest on the mortgage, but at the end of the mortgage, you'll have a significant lump sum to pay at the end of it, the amount you have left physically on the mortgage, because you've only paid the interest on it. So generally, interest-only mortgages are, landlords would use it to make kind of more money short-term, sell off the property at the end, and kind of gamble that you've got enough to pay off the mortgage, the actual amount, not just the interest. So these are bad. These are bad things to be. He shouldn't really be giving financial advice because I don't think he's CMAT qualified anyways. But yeah, this is not ideal for anyone to be told. Either have a lump sum at the end of your mortgage or be ready to pay longer. It's not great advice, is it?
A particularly large mortgage. So a typical payment for someone in the country is about £800, but that would go up to about £1,000 a month at the current rates. But
so he's trying to downplay the problems there, really, saying, "Oh, your mortgage is very big," but typically, no, the average person wouldn't have that problem.
But if you do one of the two things that I mentioned, which you can do with your bank at no change to your credit rating, that will save you hundreds of pounds a month on your mortgage payment. So it's very practical help for millions of families across the country.
Well, let's get
in
Jack
the short
back
term.
Jack, how does that sound to you, Jack?
It sounds like I'm probably going to be. I'm already on a 35-year term, and that £2,800 was extending that term to 37 years. Now, bearing in mind I'm in my early 30s, I don't really want to be paying it off until I'm in the grave. So it's something to think about. Yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah,
you can tell he's not convinced by the answer. Effectively what Sunak told him is be prepared to pay it into where you should be retiring, where, ideally your mortgage would be freehold. Be ready to keep, working into your 70s to pay off your mortgage. Does anyone really want to be doing that, honestly? Especially given, I think this guy might be self-employed, but if you're paying into a state pension, it's not going to cover your mortgage, given how pitiful pensions are in this country.
We could see another interest rate tomorrow, Prime Minister.
Yeah, it is widely. We did see the interest rate rise as well. This was just before that. So, essentially this dude's going to be paying even more on his mortgage than what Rishi Sunak was actually talking about earlier. Even more.
He predicted it up 14th month in a row.
As I said, look, and Jack, I said, please do talk to your bank, because as I said, everyone's situation is going to be slightly different. But
apparently, I don't know, I'm going to stick in allegedly here. One guy did apparently talk to his bank about, paying more, about extending his term, and the bank told him no. And if that story is true, he might have been told no because he might be paying, because they have, later life borrowing and stuff like that. They might have just said, we don't think you're going to have the facilities to pay it off long term. I'm not sure, but either way, it is a very nervy situation for a lot of people.
But a typical mortgage in the UK, right, for your listeners, as I said, typical mortgage, people have about 17 years outstanding on it. So you can extend it by 5 or 10 years. It will save you hundreds of pounds. But look, Jack, the best way for me to help you, your family, and
say the line, Rishi,
everyone else, is to bring inflation down.
Yeah.
Now, I know people will probably be, they're listening or they're here watching me on telly, and they're like, God, he's hanging on about inflation again, this kind of slightly abstract economic concept, but it's not abstract.
Yeah, you're right. It's not abstract. Maybe if we taught more people economics in school, they wouldn't fall for your party's tricks. But he's kind of not it's not mansplaining, but he's kind of like talking down to the public. This complex thing of inflation that you think is complex, but it's not really complicated. He's talking down to the British public and this geezer here.
It's inflation that is causing everyone problems with their bills. It's inflation, which means that the Bank of England is having to put up interest rates. And the quicker we get inflation down, the quicker we can ease some of these pressures. And that's why, you've got to trust me, and you've seen me do it during the pandemic. I know how to manage the...
Bro, during the pandemic, you wasted billions. 37 billion on test and trace, billions of pounds in COVID fraud. The goddamn jeweler made off with he managed to get a PPE contract. I mean, no one trusts you, big man. I'll be real. You got your hand in the cookie jar. Let's be honest now. Some of the stuff you've been accused, some of the conflicts of interest you have are shady as hell. So for him to kind of be talking about, you need to trust me, is I don't think we can trust the geezer who made money off the financial crash. I'll be honest.
Economy for everyone. I will bring inflation down. I will make the decisions that are necessary, which are not easy, but you can trust me to do that on your behalf and everyone else's, because the quicker we bring inflation down, the quicker we can start bringing interest rates down and ease that pressure for homeowners like you.
You are aware, and of course I should tell listeners, you can watch this, by the way, watch us live on Global Player. Prime Minister, you are aware that we are almost certainly going to have another rise again tomorrow, 14th month in a row. In the past, you've told people hold their nerve. They can't. Some of them can't hold their nerve, Prime Minister.
Imagine Nick Ferrari saying, kind of speaking not from the left, but kind of this perspective of people can't afford it. Based Nick Ferrari, very rare we see this, but he's right. People can't afford to hold their nerve, because this is, he's shouting hold as kind of the cavalry is charging at us, and we have no chance of survival here. We are not equipped to deal with this. The public are not financially prepared for the problems that we are facing, and it's only going to get worse with the newest interest rate rise. This is nuts.
They cannot make the payments.
Well, that's why we've put in place these easements. As I said, this mortgage...
Again, long term, he's making short-term solutions for long-term fix. It's like having a leak and putting tape over it. It doesn't fix it.
Man will go to his 70s potentially.
Well, this is really important. That we don't want people to lose their homes. I want people to be able to afford their mortgages. And remember, there is an asset sitting behind most people's mortgage, right? There's a home that they own. And again, it's hard for every individual situation. On average, most people have a mortgage worth about £140,000 on a house that's worth about twice that, right? So there's a good amount of equity that they've got. Our job is to protect that for them.
So a good amount of equity. So, maybe they can borrow more against that equity. But again, this is just it's not what he's saying here. He just looks very out of touch. He looks very out of touch to the point where even Nick Ferrari's kind of calling him on it, saying, this man will be in his 70s. And it looks like maybe I don't think Nick Ferrari will vote Tory next time. If you look at the geezer's face, he's just like, they can't, this is untenable. Because, some of these people in the media will be affected by these interest rate rises. Some of them are paid well. No doubt Nick Ferrari's paid well. Does he have a mortgage? Probably not. But some of the other people in LBC definitely would do. The presenters that get paid decent money, and they're a bit on the younger end. So I think you can see the kind of disbelief, because they'll probably talk about this at work. It's a political radio organisation. They might discuss this kind of stuff at work and just say, this is just ridiculous.
Month. And when I say we've got to stick with it, we've got to stick with the plan.
All right.
What plan? Where is this plan? You have no plan. Your plan is if the economy dies, it dies. You got the Ivan Drago strategy, honestly.
Now, the best way for me to help everyone is to bring inflation down, as I'm determined to do.
You have no idea. This is just stupid. And this is the last clip where he gets pieced up about the NHS, because the government are pushing privatisation, which is something we will discuss or have discussed depending on when these videos go out.
Response from a woman who's on the front line. Quick response, Olivia, if you would, before we move on. Olivia.
I think it's amazing that we're blaming the increasing in waiting lists on doctors going on strike. You're losing staff.
I love the fact that he does this confused face. It's the only relatable thing about it is I do this exact same thing. Pretty similar to that, where I'm just like, what? It's just hilarious.
Because we're undervalued, and it's not just doctors, it's everyone. We're all leaving. A happy workforce is your responsibility. You're the Prime Minister, you're the government, your staff aren't happy. That's your fault.
I think it's more than just unhappiness. I don't want to correct someone who works in the field, but it's undervalued. It's not just about feeling happy, it's about feeling valued and being able to live. I think, the fact that NHS workers have to pay for parking and things like that, it's just like, why am I going into work to have to pay to work? It's just stupid. That amongst other things, but for me, it's just a system where they feel undervalued and underappreciated and overworked. That's a bad combination. And the fact that other countries have said, we'll take you, we'll pay you more, we'll give you better living conditions, etc., where it's cheaper to live in these countries. It's cheaper to live in a place like New Zealand, Australia, for example. Even some of the, I think even countries like Qatar, even the States will take healthcare workers, pay them considerably more. I think I remember reading about 6-7 years ago that Qatar were going to pay teachers around 40k a year and offer you free healthcare and dental. And you'd have kids that would actually respect teachers rather than kids constantly insulting teachers in this country. So they have got an offer. They will continue to get offers from other countries to work in those countries, and will be offered better pay and better conditions. And they would be silly not to take it if those opportunities came by. Honestly.
And ultimately, that's not good for patients, because retaining staff is one of the bedrocks of making sure that you have good patient safety. You cannot keep the NHS running with the staff shortages that it has. And to keep us here, you have to keep us happy. That is your job. None of us are happy.
I would just say, Olivia, right, so if you look, when you have the time, please go look at the long-term workforce plan. It's the NHS.
I've read it. I get it. It's great. I love the fact that you're bringing in tons of new people, but there's going to be no one there to train or educate or supervise.
There it is again, the confused face. Oh no. And she's right again. Who's going to train all of these people in more complex cases? Like when I'm at work, I asked the people with more experience than I do about specific things, because again, I don't want to make a mistake. And in healthcare, if you make a mistake, you could kill someone. Someone could die, or get more ill. You can get sued and things like that. You could end your career. All that debt you've accrued to go into kind of medical school for what? To get sued over a mistake because you had no one to help you, honestly. And it's just stupid. You need experienced staff in any field, especially healthcare. You need experienced staff to help you make decisions and to help train you, so you know what you're doing in any given situation.
Supervise them, and you cannot be safe without senior staff on the wards training, educating, and supervising.
So there's three.
It's just confused Rishi, honestly. If I knew how to do GIFs, one sec. If I knew how to do GIFs on this, there's one, there's two. Look at that. What? Honestly, he's an out of touch geezer. He just doesn't get it. That's the problem. He will never understand these things, but you can still have empathy. You can still try and understand the problems people are facing, but he doesn't have any of that. And so what that means is he just appears out of touch, especially I think in this clip regarding the mortgages. He just appears incredibly out of touch. Telling this guy who's in his 30s, you can extend your term, and he'll be paying his mortgage off in his 70s. It just doesn't make sense, does it? Not really. And so, we have the out of touch kind of billionaire prime minister who's in charge of the country during a cost of living crisis, and he refuses to actually do his job and deal with the problems we are facing. There's no solutions here. This is one of the problems the country's facing. We have politicians who genuinely don't understand things and who don't want to tell the public the truth. The economy is not like a household. That's the first thing we need to dispel. And then from there we can kind of, move on. But, for the longest, people have assumed that. And the fact that, Rishi Sunak saying we need to get inflation down by basically saying to people, if you die, you die. It doesn't work. There's a lot of causes of inflation in this country. We are doing much worse at dealing with it than other countries are for a multitude of reasons. But without the politicians to actually acknowledge the problems we are facing, we're not going to get anywhere. The first point of solving a problem is to acknowledge you have a problem, and the Tories have not done that. And until they do, we're going to continue to face problems. Not saying they can offer adequate solutions, but at least acknowledging we have a problem is the first step. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Oh yeah, and a word of advice to Rishi's team. Stop him doing interviews. It's just easy content for me. Easy. Piece him up. Imagine I called in. I should have. I wish I could have done. Rishi, your team sucks. Genuinely, your team might be worse than Ed Miliband's team in 2015. And his team were awful.